Welcome to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, the home for financial advice in a language you can understand. Created by Marc Freedman of Freedman Financial, he and his team of certified financial planner professionals will discuss timely topics that help individuals and families make smart financial decisions. And now, get ready for this week's edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial.
Welcome back to another edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial. My name is Marc Freedman.
And I'm Christian Karcher.
And we're here to provide you with some financial advice in a language you can understand. It's the middle of May right now.
We're approaching the summer.
We are.
It's supposed to get warm soon, I hope, at some point.
I heard Tuesday, and then we're filming this on, I think, the 13th of May right now, but I heard Tuesday could be in the 90s in here, which would be kind of nice.
It may be a little too nice.
Now, we're having a shredding event this Saturday.
And it's not supposed to rain all morning, which is very great.
The last time we did this, we had such a downpour. It was absolutely miserable, but people still lined up all the way down the street. They're coming with buckets and buckets and buckets of shredding stuff.
Yep.
And we tried to have refreshments for everybody, but nobody even wanted to get out of the car.
That's right. There was a lot of food in the office for the next couple weeks after that one.
This year, I don't think we're going to have a problem. I'm expecting a lot of people. Because we've been promoting this quite heavily. In fact, the radio station's been doing it. We got a lot of public address announcements or public service announcements that have been going out. So I expect we're going to get a lot of people, especially with the great weather.
I would sure hope so.
And, you know, when it comes to shredding, if you've ever been wondering yourself about trying to shred documents, what can you keep, what can you get rid of, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of stuff you don't need to keep anymore. And forget about what your mother told you. Forget about what your grandmother told you. Back then, we didn't have this thing called the cloud or the World Wide Web.
That's right. You guys had what, microfiches? Is that what those are called?
Yeah, microfiches. Yeah.
I don't know what they're called.
We used to go to the libraries and look at the microfiche to look at old newspaper clippings and stuff. Now you can find anything on the internet, right?
That's right. Especially your statements, things like the statements we have in our office. Some people used to say, oh, I want to keep 7 years worth of those statements in case someone ever asked me a question about a cost basis or a transaction. Well, guess what? We have all of those statements, and we can pull them up in the snap of a finger.
Yeah, we can pull it up a lot faster than you can by going through your file cabinet and trying to figure out where is this stuff. You know, I've joked about this in the past. My mother-in-law still has electric bills from 1970, still sitting in these giant metal file cabinets because she says your father, my father-in-law, would not have wanted to throw it away. I actually think if he were alive, and he's been gone 27 years, I've got to believe by now he would have been okay with tossing it. But, you know, some battles you don't fight.
Right. The world moves on. A lot of things are now saved in the cloud or can be accessible. I mean, even your old tax returns, you can now contact the IRS and get them to send you a tax return. It might take a couple months.
You don't even have to wait. No, if you actually go online, I've done this.
Oh, certainly.
You can actually pull it up online. You can see your tax return online if you want. I mean, granted, you got to set up an account with, I think it's ID.me or something like that through the IRS, but it all works. The stuff we save, we don't need to be hoarders. We don't need to save that stuff anymore. And so these shredding events that we host and others host around the country, they're a great opportunity for you to get rid of this stuff. I know people are very sensitive about throwing their stuff in the trash and worrying about dumpster divers and all that stuff that are going to steal your identity.
Right. And
this shredding solves that.
I was going to say, this is one of the great things about getting rid of the paper documents is it takes away some of the risk of those people who are able to find old documents. You know, you pass away and your kids just throw away all these documents. Someone goes dumpster diving, finds your identity and is able to, I don't know, take out a credit card, do something. This is one way to kind of prevent that. And the shredding, we get the truck, it shreds right there in front of you.
Right in front of you. You can watch on the TV screen.
All secure.
You can see it all happen.
The disposal is all secure. So it's a really good option.
But you know, here's one thing that you shouldn't shred. And people still have these. They forget they even have them. And these are things that don't exist today, but existed years ago, are things called trade tickets. When you were working with a broker, perhaps years ago, or with an advisor, perhaps in the 70s or the 80s, and they provided you with a ticket, a piece of paper that says you bought X shares at this price, and you have that, that is verification of the price you paid for shares, because I can't tell you how many investment statements you and I see, especially when people come into the office to say, hey, can you take over these accounts? And there's no reflection of what the cost was, what you paid for these securities. And if that stuff is not noted properly and you sell those securities, what happens?
Well, it gets reported on your 1099, that tax document that gets generated as a $0 cost basis. And it's up to you to say, oh, no, this was what my cost basis is when you fill in your tax return. A lot of people don't look that detailed, and so they'll just put the whole thing was a gain. And so you cost yourself some more in taxes by not having those bases updated.
Yeah, and we see this happen a lot, especially when we're reviewing our clients' tax returns.
Yeah.
Clients coming in saying, why did I owe so much in taxes this year? And oftentimes it's because they didn't report the proper cost of the security that they sold, and thus the IRS said, you owe us all this money in taxes.
Right. I mean, pretty much anything that you bought before 2000, the brokerage firms didn't legally have to record that basis and carry it forward and send it in any transfers. Systems are much more robust now. They're required to track that cost basis for you. If you transfer money between Fidelity and Schwab or wherever to LPL, all of that cost basis comes over in the transfers. And so it's much more regulated now. However, anything before 2000, it's really hard to find. And so oftentimes we'll get statements where someone bought something in, say, 1995. And it will even have your original purchase date of January 1st, 1995. But it'll still say uncovered basis or zero basis. And so that's when we have to go, okay, so let's try to come up with the best estimate basis, work with your accountant, work with you to figure out what did you pay for that, or what's your best guess as what you paid for that.
Yeah, so I'd encourage you, if you're a client of ours, the cost is on the statement. But if you have other investment accounts, and I'm not talking about retirement accounts, non-retirement accounts, maybe it's a brokerage firm, perhaps it's with an online broker, perhaps it doesn't matter who it's with. Take a look at that statement and go to the area that shows the holdings. And generally the holdings will say the name of the security, how many shares you have, what it's worth today, but look for a column that says cost. If cost isn't on there, it means they're not showing it on the statement, the advisor has chosen not to show it, or they simply don't have it. And that is a dangerous thing to continue to perpetuate on your statements, especially if at some point you intend on selling those shares.
Particularly if you're going to sell them, but even if you're not, very often if it's an individual stock, we see this where stocks occasionally will have spin-offs and splits.
Absolutely.
And it becomes more and more difficult to track that basis if you don't have it in as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, a great example of that for those of you that are watching that are probably over the age of 50 or 60, at some point, somebody in your family might have had AT&T stock. Or even if you're a little younger, they had GE stock. And these stocks have spun off in so many different ways that nobody captures what all that cost is if the investment company didn't have the original cost.
That's right. And if you try to go back and recreate it today, it's definitely possible, but it becomes a whole web of figuring out, okay, what was the original basis? And then what percentage went to X, Y, or Z company, and what percentage got paid out as a distribution when something liquid? It is a mess.
It's complicated. But honestly, it's one of the services that we provide here at Freedman Financial to our clients when they find themselves in that situation. And we've done plenty of research in trying to use historical data to try to better understand what that cost basis is so that you can make more informed decisions about investments to keep, investments to sell that stay in line with your overall financial plan.
Absolutely.
So 10 minutes in, and this wasn't even what we we're going to talk about today.
That's right. I guess we'll have to save that topic
No,
for another day.
We actually have a few more minutes because we've only been at this 10 minutes, Christian.
I'm sorry.
I got to promise and fulfill my time here of doing about 14 minutes or so.
Well,
so,
Mark, that's a self-imposed deadline from the radio days.
This is a podcast. This is a podcast. We can do our own thing. So actually, I'll make a few other comments. We do a scholarship every year, and I think this was our 26th annual or 27th annual.
I think it was 26th because it was 2000 was the first
2000
one,
was the first one. 26th annual scholarship. 27th, right, because we did 2000. And we issue a $2,000 scholarship to a graduating high school senior who submits an application and provides us with details about, their academic studies, their extracurricular things, but most importantly, answers the question, our essay question, which is, Do you remember what it is?
What does financial literacy mean to you?
Which is financial responsibility mean to you? And we had a bunch of applicants this year for a $2,000 prize. We hand all of the applications over to a collection of our clients. Now we redact all the names and all that kind of stuff, and we send it off to our clients. They go through a huge rubric. They all offer their perspectives and ranking of everybody. And we did have a winner this year. And if you get our newsletter, you would have seen it in our newsletter who won. She was a great candidate. She's number one in her class at Manchester Essex High School. And so we wish her all the best. And everybody, by the way, everybody who applies for the scholarship gets a gift from us, even if you didn't win. And it's a gift that I would encourage you to purchase for yourself or somebody that wants to learn a little bit more about money. It's something that we talk about on this podcast a lot. It's a book called The Psychology of Money, and it's written by Morgan Housel. We talk about him a lot. It's a great book. If you want to understand the basics of understanding how money works, how it impacts our life, how it mentally impacts us. It's not about how to buy stocks, how to buy bonds, none of that stuff. Right.
And I would say it's not even all about saving, because one of the things that kids go, oh, financial responsibility is all about saving. Sometimes it's not just about saving, but it's about spending money on the things that make you happiest.
That's right.
And finding and using money not just as a thing you accumulate, but as a tool to have a more fulfilling life.
Yeah, and we say to our clients, the number one thing that we provide to you, well, people will talk about this financial peace of mind thing, but we're going to say we help you make smart financial decisions. And this book, The Psychology of Money, also aligns with that thinking in how to feel good about making smart financial decisions. And that's what we call financial advice in a language you can understand. If now's the time for you to get serious about your financial planning or investment management needs, we're here to help you, right?
Absolutely.
We are here. Been doing this since 1968. Not me. I was in diapers. You weren't even a twinkle in your mother's eyes back then. But we are here. How many years is this now? 58 years we've been doing this. A long time. The firm. A long time. Now's the time for you to get serious about your financial planning and investment management needs. Give us a call. 978-531-8108 or visit us on the web, freedmanfinancial.com. That's Freedman.
2 E's and a D.
Financial.com. And you can also sign up for a free weekly newsletter that comes out every Friday, 10:30 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. Go to the bottom of any page on our website, put in your name and email address, and you'll start getting it every Friday. We call it Dollars and Cents, financial advice in a language you can understand. And we'll be back again next week with more of it. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again next week.
Talk to you soon.
During today's episode of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, your host may have discussed specific financial planning and investment ideas that are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Please remember that investing involves risk and may include loss of principal. Always consult a certified financial planner professional, qualified attorney, or tax advisor prior to investing to determine what is appropriate for you. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.